What's up, guys? Today we're going to be installing the Rocky Road Outfitters inch and 5/8 lift kit for the Jeep Renegade, also compatible with the new 2018 Jeep Compass as well. It's going to be going on this yellow beauty today, and I'm going to be giving you guys a nice little walkthrough of how it's done and all the steps and tools you're going to be needing to get this job finished. Okay guys, so the first step we're going to want to do is jack up the vehicle. Make sure you have yourselves a good jack and a couple jack stands, and we're going to remove the front tires, have your emergency brakes on, and we're going to pop the hood, and we're going to remove the plastic trim and start to get these strut towers out of the vehicle. Alright guys, so now that we got the vehicle all jacked up and we got the wheels off both the front driver and passenger side, we got the vehicle on jack stands and on a jack just to make sure nothing bad can go wrong. What you're going to do is there's going to be these plastic rubbery panels right here. You're just going to pop them off, and you're going to remove a clip that was right here, and you're going to lift this up, and you'll see in here, there's your strut tower base, and those 3 bolts. Those are in E14, which is a reverse Torx bit, and you're going to need to remove those to remove the strut tower. Okay. Now, if you can't get to them and you need to, you can remove this plastic piece by removing the windshield wipers, which is under here. It's a 15mm bolt. But you need to be very careful because you can crack your windshield incredibly easy. These things are very fragile. And once you remove that, you're going to come down here and you're going to remove your sway bar and your control arm. And I'm going to show you all exactly how to do that here in just a second. Okay guys, so in the first step, we're going to remove the top strut tower. To do this, you're going to need to remove the top bolts. It's a 7/16 12 point or an E14. You have to have the 12 point or it will not work, or the actual E14 bit itself. And you're going to remove the 3 screws and put them to the side. Then we're going to move down to the bottom, and we're going to remove the camber bolt and the bolt holding it onto this the strut tower onto the wheel assembly, and remove the entire strut tower. Okay guys, so now to remove the strut tower, after you get the top ones removed, you're going to have to remove these nuts and bolts, which is an E18 bolt and a 16mm nut, top and bottom, both of these. You're going to need to remove these hoses right here on the side. Don't disconnect them to where they're going to leak out brake fluid, but just remove them from the strut tower, okay? You can see how the strut tower just dropped a little. And then your control arm, you're going to remove that, and that's a 17mm nut. Just back the nut off to the point to where you're not going to mushroom the top of the bolt, and just get you a sledgehammer or a rubber mallet or something and just tap it and you'll knock it out, and the strut tower will fall right out of place, and we'll get to actually installing the spacer and getting everything bolted back up again. This process should take around 30 minutes if you have 2 pairs of hands, which is what I highly recommend. Okay, so now we're going to remove this little clamp holding on the brake lines, and you need a pair of needle nose, but we only have a pair of vice grips, so we're going to just very carefully grab it and pull it down, and it's going to release it, and you're going to be able to pull out the brake lines.
Usually.
Ta-da! Okay, so what we just did was we put the nuts just far enough out to where we wouldn't mushroom the head on the bolt, and we got the sledgehammer and just tapped it to knock it over. And you're just going to wiggle it a little bit, and you're going to be able to knock out those bolts, and the strut tower will just release, and it should just come right out. Be very wary of your brake lines, because again, you do not want to rip these out. If you do, you're going to have to refill your brake fluid and bleed your brakes, which is not fun. Okay guys, so now we're going to get to the point where we're going to be installing the spacer onto the strut tower, and to do so, we're going to come over to our nuts and bolts table. You're going to get you 3 of the 12 let's see what size this is. This is a 10 by 1.5 pitch by 18. You're going to grab 3 of these for each side. You're going to grab you 3 of your lock nuts, or lock washers. There's this big old stash of them. And then 1 of your medium-sized washers that you have like a stash of, okay? You're going to put your lock washer onto your bolt first, like so. And then you're going to put your washer on like this. So your setup should be just like this. And you will insert it into the spacer onto the strut tower when the strut tower is installed back inside of the wheel well again, which is what we're about to do now. Okay guys, so we got the strut tower on. A few little complications, but you're basically gonna put it back on the same way you took it off, okay? Once you get the spacer in and you get the bolts fed, you're gonna tighten them, you're gonna keep them loose. Okay, just barely thread them in until you get the strut tower back on to the control arm, the knuckle right there, okay? Once you get that done, you're gonna tighten your knuckles down to 90 foot-pounds. You're gonna come up here and you're gonna tighten these down to 50, it says on the paper, but I put them down to 60 just to get that little extra. And then the control arm that we previously taken off right down there, it's got a lock nut on it, so you're just gonna wanna tighten that down to about 50 to 60. But, I mean, it's got a lock nut, so it's not gonna back out, so there is no actual torque spec that I can find for it. And once you get this done, you get your sway bars reattached. We can put the wheels back on and set her down and move to the actual drive shaft bearing drop and then move on to the rear. Okay guys, so you might be asking yourself, why does it look like the rear is done? Well, it's because it is done. Due to some logistical troubles, we went ahead and installed the lift kit, and I'm gonna go ahead and walk you guys through it and explain to y'all how it's done and show y'all step by step to make it really simple, okay? So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is to remove your inner fender liner, okay? It's really simple to do. It's just a couple bolts along the edge right here, little push pins, 10mm socket will be needed, a Phillips head, screwdriver, and a panel remover tool, okay? Once you get that done and finished, you're gonna remove your sway bar at the top, just like you did in the front section, okay? So it's gonna be a T25 Torx and a, was it size 18mm? I believe, socket. And then when you get that removed on both sides, you're just gonna kind of kick them over to the side and they're gonna just lay there. And you're gonna move on to removing and installing the spacer for the control arm. So you're going to remove, there's gonna be 4 bolts, 2 right here and 2 on the other side. You're gonna remove 1 from this side that's factory and 1 from the front side that's factory and replace it with these, but don't put them in all the way, okay? And then you're going to remove these factory ones totally, and you're going to slip this spacer in there without removing the bracket. Because if you remove the bracket, you're going to apply a lot of pressure. Okay, and then you're going to put these in, and then tighten them all up, and they're going to be torqued down to 70 foot-pounds of torque. All right, and then once you finish that, you're going to drop your center cross member, which holds your diff, which is what these pucks are for right here. You're going to need a 23mm socket to remove these. And to remove the factory bolts, I believe it's a E16 bit, and you're going to replace it. The bolt spec on this is going to be a 14 or a metric 14, size 14, and it's going to be a 2.0 pitch that is going to be 150mm long. Okay, this is really important because that length is crucial. If you lose one of these bolts or anything, you're not going to really be able to find them at a hardware store. And so you're going to have to order it online. So make sure you have all your parts and don't lose them. Like I said, lay them out on a table prior and make sure everything stays there, okay? So on a separate and side note, this hose right here is, if you got a 4-wheel drive, is going to be your differential hose for your breathing. So if you ever go through water crossings, just remember, you do got a little bit of leeway, but the Renegade still only has 19 inches of water fording due to other parts and electronics. So moving on from this, once you get these 4 pucks, get ready to install them, you're going to need to put a jack underneath the diff like this. And don't jack up the diff, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to just apply a little bit of pressure to it, undo the factory bolts, and then twist the jack and drop it just a smidge to where you can fit these spacers in there, okay? Each side, you're going to have to drop it a little bit, and then set them and torque them down to 100 to 120 foot-pounds. When you do this, you should see that the differential got picked up off the jack, and that should be the end result of that, okay? Then we're gonna move on to installing the brake line drops and the muffler drops. So as you can see right here in this top corner, that's the muffler drop. It's super easy. It's a 10mm bolt, and then you're just gonna back out the factory one, and you're gonna put the spacer in there and put in the new one with the lock washer and nut, or lock washer and washer, and tighten them down. There's no torque spec. It's got a lock washer on it. I would just do the good old German style, good and tight. Just hand tight should do it, and then check up on them. After 500 miles, you should always check every bolt anyways. And then underneath here is your brake line, okay? So as you can see, if I come around here, there's that brake line spacer right there. What you're gonna do is just undo the factory bolt, just like you did for the muffler, and you're gonna drop that down and put that spacer in and do the exact same, just tight enough, okay? And after you're finished with this, you're done. Just kidding, not really. So next comes the actual, a little bit more complicated part, in my opinion, is these right here. These three silver bolts up top is going to be your top spacers for your strut tower. And luckily, you don't have to remove the camber bolts when you do this. You've got enough travel in your suspension to where you can loosen up all the factory ones, which is a E14, and you're going to basically just kind of compress it down. I know it sounds crazy, but you can press it down and slide in the spacers and carefully line up the holes, because you don't want to strip these. And you'll line them up, and you'll put your big washer and your lock washer, and you'll slide the bolt in there and tighten everything down. It is also tightened down to 70 foot-pounds, just like the control arms. And when you're done with that, you can reinsert your wheel spacer and reinsert all the bolts, and you'll be finished. It'll be a done deal, and your rear will be finished where you can, oh, one other thing, once you get that back on, you want to put your sway bar back on. Don't forget that part, because you might not like the jarring effect. Now, on a side note, what you can do is remove these, your lines. You just pull them out from here, and this will give your strut tower a little bit more flex to it, to where you don't have to worry about pulling on your lines too much and causing issues with your brakes. Because like I said, priorly to the front install, if you snap your brake line and you start leaking brake fluid, guess what? You have to fix it, fill it back up, and rebleed it. And that's just a hassle you don't want to do. Overall, this install should take you, I believe it's taken us around 4 to 6 hours, somewhere around there, just through stopping and eating lunch and stuff of that nature. So, we're about finished here. We're gonna get everything finished up, get the wheels back on, go for a drive, and we'll do a walk around the Jeep and show you just what the end product looks like. All right, guys, so we got the lift done. Rocky Road Outfitters, 1 5/8" lift kit. It didn't take that long, probably about 4 to 6 hours if you have all the right tools and a second pair of hands like I had. I highly recommend it when you're doing any kind of equipment or lift like this. If you come over here, you can see that it's going to give nearly 2 inches of height to the factory. And this being a trail hog springs, it's going to give you nearly 3 inches of lift over a sport model. The second you put this on, you can tell a significant difference when you get in and out of the vehicle. This is going to make a substantial difference when it comes to off-road and going over obstacles. You pair it up with aftermarket skid plates for the reflection. And if you put rock sliders on it, you're going to have everything you need. After this, we're going to be putting tires and rock sliders on this vehicle. So stay tuned. What's next on this